One of the most amazing phenomenons in indie gaming has been their retro revival. Going all the way back to Mega Man 9 and 10 and now Mighty Gunvolt Reverse with the Mega Man series, Bloodstained, Ritual of Night, and Curse of the Moon with the Castlevania series, and now for the Adventure Island series, potentially Miles and Kilo. Now this game was not made by the original developers of Wonder Boy or Adventure Island, but if you've played those games with their tropical themes and with their specific type of platforming, then you'll see it. And this game is great. It's honestly one of the best retro-inspired platformers I've played in years. In fact, as far as the Switch goes this year, it's probably only eclipsed by Sonic Mania Plus. So today on Stuff We Play, we're going over a game that was sent to me recently to review by the developer, and that's Miles and Kilo for the Nintendo Switch. And today we're talking about why I think this is such a great indie game. Welcome to Stuff We Play, home of everything weird and retro, and I guess retro-inspired. And if that sounds cool to you, why not subscribe? And today, we're talking about Miles and Kilo for the Nintendo Switch. A great platformer. Now, this game is proof of how important social interaction is to this channel. A buddy of mine actually tweeted at me about this game, saying, hey, check this out. And then the developer, Four Horses, who made this game, is a one-man team mostly, actually responded and was eventually like, hey, you want a review code? I was like, sure. And you know, I was expecting a solid game. I mean, if someone recommends me a game to look at in the channel, either it's really good or really bad. But I was blown away within minutes of this game. Miles and Kilo, which I guess it's a miles and kilometers pun, follows Miles and his dog Kilo. And Miles and Kilo are flying their airplane, which looks a lot like Sonic's plane from Sonic 2 on the Genesis, over a mysterious archipelago. They're going somewhere, but that's not important, and it's storming. And then they encounter Ripple, who's a Grim Reaper type character who has this really hilarious dialogue. So it's up to them to travel across the island, defeat Ripple's minions, and find the evil Grim Reaper dude himself. It's a 2D platform plot, but I do wish there were more cutscenes here, because I love these. I think the dialogue is incredibly strong here, along with the rest of the presentation as well. I love this chiptune soundtrack, and graphically, yeah, it's an 8/16-bit mesh that's oh so prevalent in indie games. I mean, like, look at Golf Story, for example. But it works perfectly here, and I absolutely love how everything looks, especially Miles, but then again, I just kind of have a thing for flat caps. However, the greatness with Miles and Kilo does not stop with the presentation. The gameplay here is incredibly solid. I really love it. Now, this is a game that was designed to work on mobile potentially, which is why there is an auto run option. However, that's toggled off by default, and it's nice to have it off because, well, it's nice to be able to stop every once in a while. But this game is built around flow, but not necessarily speed. Yes, you can speed run the game, and there's a timer there, and you get ranked at the end of each stage with, you know, S rank being the best, and you kind of feel that inner incentive to try to S rank every single stage and grab every single piece of fruit or coin or whatever that you can, but it's a game that's definitely a bit slower than your average Sonic game, but it never really feels slow. Each stage here is only around 30 seconds to a minute long, and this game, it's very clearly designed around these stage lengths. It's bite-sized stages that A, make this game great for playing on the go because it looks great in docked mode, but it plays fantastically in handheld mode. But it also means that because of this, as you die in only one hit, death is only a slap on the wrist, and you can very easily play each stage over and over again to try to get the best time and potentially S-rank them. Furthermore is the different little gameplay gimmicks. We have Miles, who's a pretty standard platformer character. He can run left and right and jump on enemies to kill them, but can also shoot fruit. This game only really uses 2 buttons plus a D-pad, which especially gives it kind of that retro feel. And Miles' control is great, but in some stages you also can take control of Kilo, his dog, who darts forward and can homing attack onto enemies, kind of like how Sonic could in Sonic 4. Well, I'm talking about Sonic a lot. But what also spices things up are a few gimmicks. Mainly, you have minecart levels a la Donkey Kong Country, and also the surfboard, which is pretty much Master Higgins' skateboard from the Adventure Island games, but on water. Now, in addition to this game can get pretty difficult, but then again, so could Adventure Island. And don't get me wrong, this isn't nearly as old school hard as those games were. The game starts out pretty easy and has a scaling difficulty. Most of the bosses are pretty easy as well. I like how you alternate between fighting them either as Milo or Kilo. Unfortunately, one of the bosses was a down point for this game. You see, each world has 7 levels except for the final world, which has 8. And World 7 is always a boss fight, and World 2-7 is just weirdly hard. You're chasing after this guy and you have to launch this ball and chain back at him, but this mechanic seemed to only work when it wanted to. With this boss, because how finicky this ball and chain is, It felt more like I just got lucky, like, you know, getting a 777 on the slot machine instead of actually winning due to skill and trial and error. But all the other bosses are a lot of fun. My favorite's actually the final boss of Ripple. It's difficult, don't get me wrong, but it's so rewarding. And I'm not going to spoil the final level, but that has its own gimmick, which I think is great. It's a great way that a lot of classic games ended, and it works perfectly here. It's phenomenal, and that's a great way to describe this game. Though you can probably beat it in just a couple of hours, like any great side-scrolling platformer, you have the incentive to go back and play it. You're your biggest challenge, and I love that. That's great game design at its core, and at $8, I can wholeheartedly recommend it. And to be honest, if Limited Run Games ever did a re-release of this game for like 20 bucks physically, you bet I'd buy that day one. I love this game. Miles and Kilo, I'm stuttering a bit, I'm sorry, but Miles and Kilo is a great time and a lot of fun. This has really been a great recent period for platformers on the Switch. You know, first I played Sonic Mania Plus and now Miles and Kilo, and it's so good. You owe it to yourself to play this game. I had a ton of fun with it, and I want to know, what great Nintendo Switch indie games, really any weird and retro games in general, should I look at in the future? Let me know down in the comment section below, and while you're at it, why don't you subscribe to Stuff We Play for more great content like this, or even back us on Patreon, because every dollar earned from Patreon does go back into the channel itself. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Stay classy, and I'll see, hopefully, everyone who's been watching next time.